This year, on August 1st, we have an interesting and unique convergence of three holidays. Of course, we celebrate and venerate Saint Seraphim of Sarov. Today, we recall the finding of his relics, his glorification, and coincidentally, it's also his birthday. This probably was the last great Orthodox feast or triumph, if it were, in Russia before the revolution in 1903. The second feast that we celebrate is the memory of the Holy Fathers of the first 6 ecumenical councils. It's a movable holiday that comes during the week and is celebrated on the closest Sunday, this year, today. It's also a very ancient holiday, for it recalls and glorifies the first 6 ecumenical councils. The 7th was in the 8th century AD. And finally, of course, we celebrate the resurrection of Christ, as we do every week on Sunday. As we've often heard said by myself and other priests, nothing happens by coincidence. And today we see these holidays merge, giving us a lesson of how to lead our Christian lives. What were the ecumenical councils? They were great gatherings of the Holy Fathers of our Church, some of the likes of which we have icons throughout our church, St. Nicholas for one. And they gathered to fight against the heresies and the false teachings that cropped up over time. And slowly over the centuries, the first centuries of our church, they helped formulate and establish the foundation of the law within our church, both dogmatic law and canonical law. The difference between them, you want to look at dogma, we hear the creed, we say the creed. I believe, Yeru, that's dogma. That encapsulates all of our beliefs, all of our faith, and that prayer that we hear every Sunday during liturgy was formulated and established and brought to light during these councils. Canon law is more of the day-to-day rulings of the church and how a priest should behave, what sort of punishment should be, or teaching should be intended unto people during certain sins, etc., and so forth. Dogma we cannot break. Canon, by virtue of what's necessary for a church, we can skew a smidge. But it's interesting to know that we can say, like, well, we have the ecumenical councils. They gave us everything. We have the creed. We have everything we need. What more do we need? Yes, we have the foundation of the law. But if we heard today's Sunday gospel, we hear how Christ comes into a town and has mercy on a paralytic and heals him, and tells him that his sins are forgiven. All those of the law, the scribes, immediately were, oh, he's blaspheming, he's being sinful, he's going against the law. But Christ approaches man out of love and compassion. And he said that you know that the Son of Man has this power. He healed him. He asked him, what is easier to say? Your sins are forgiven, or take that bed off and walk. And he shows them the power of love and compassion of God. Perhaps St. Seraphim is one of the best examples in Russian church history of the merging of this God-bearing love and the strictness and the formality of the church law and the structure of its. All his life, in a ways, like St. Sergius of Ravensbrück, they're unique saints, and that their sainthood followed them throughout their lives from birth. Much akin to St. John the Forerunner, the baptizer of Christ. From his youth, St. Seraphim was protected by God and especially by the Virgin Mary. St. Seraphim should have a special meaning in all our hearts as members of the Russian Orthodox Church of God. For our protectors, the course icon of the Virgin, young Seraphim was healed from that very same icon that has been in our church, that we've all venerated. Still has a St. Seraph. And as he became a monastic, we see the rigidity of his discipline, praying on the rock for 1,000 days and nights. We see the rigidity of his fervor of discipline to stand for Christ. But at the same time, we see his unending love to anyone who came to him. Christ is risen, my dears. That's how we greet anyone who came on. Whether it be king, prince, warrior, peasant, child. And indeed, St. Seraphim felt and understood that without Christ's resurrection, there would be nothing. And Christ's resurrection is the example of ultimate love for the creation. So, brothers and sisters, let us take a look at this day. Let us take a look at the struggle of the ecumenical councils, found in the foundation of law and order within our church. But let us remember that law and that order is useless and functions not without love. And let us bring that to our hearts and to our lives. We need to have this in prayer, in action, in deed, in word, in thought. And at the same time, as we direct it inwards towards ourselves, outwards, we direct love, compassion, friendship, forgiveness, and love. Let us emulate St. Seraphim by his heart, so we can too feel in our hearts as he felt, and wish to burst out in joy to anyone we see, and wish everyone and bid everyone that Christ